I think about my Buddhist friends, I'm thinking about the kind of life questions that they're asking themselves, just like we are. They're hoping they're doing enough good to be reincarnated. We try to represent those struggles with the art, with the movement. We're trying to take elements of their world, shapes, colors, line, and use that to try to tell the story of Christ in a way that is easier for them to understand, if that makes sense.
To be Thai is to be Buddhist. 88% of Thai villages have no Christian presence.
Thai people are on Facebook 3 times more than any other nation in the world. So what better platform to get the good news out across Thailand than through this animation series?
The texture, the color, it all kind of works together to try to have one message. That's the thing we're trying to figure out, is just what that is and what combination of those visual things and musical things that will be the most powerful, will get across the message in the clearest way.
The first few months after doing our research in Thailand were spent building out the style guide and figuring out, okay, what is the visual style of this project?
I think the style is coming together slowly through a lot of experimenting and hard work on Kayla's part, primarily.
By now we have a pretty good sense of the style that we're going with. For example, in the style guide, we made a note we want to try to keep the compositions circular. We want to use that throughout, as well as using symmetry.
A lot of color in line and detail and pattern. I think it's going to be really, really beautiful when it's done.
But there's still a lot of things that I'm sure will continue to develop as we get further in.
I think at this stage, we're definitely trying to figure out how the people are going to look, because right now a lot of our scenes are missing people.
We are thankful to have a character designer who is helping us solidify that more.
At this moment, we're going through all the scripts that have been written and trying to figure out what themes we can use. Like, what does the Holy Spirit look like? What does the symbol for that look like? What does heaven look like? What does hell look like? Figuring out what those symbols are, it's a big job because we don't want to use the wrong symbol.
It's in the foreground. You don't know what it is. It's part of the border. He picks it up.
Before we traveled to Thailand, my idea of building a series for the Buddhist people would be to incorporate lots of images and symbols from Buddhism into the series as a way to kind of make it feel relevant and familiar to them. But I think one thing that surprised me was learning that that's not necessarily a good thing to incorporate symbols that are so strongly tied to Buddhism. In order for this series to really connect with Buddhist people, we need to make sure that there's nothing that we're going to put in it that's going to be offensive or be distracting to them.
It's tricky, and that's why we're going back and forth with the consultants in Thailand.
Another thing that's very important is the hierarchy, even like visually. In every scene, I'm trying to make sure that Jesus is always either the highest or centered, somehow that we're visually showing that Jesus is the most important person in this scene.
Though our consultants are mostly in Thailand, we're hoping to produce images that aren't Thai specific, because there's Buddhists in all kinds of countries. And they have similar symbols, but not the same symbols. So we don't want to exclude a culture or a people by being too specific. So that's the other balancing act we're trying to make right now.
We've been talking about how to be true to the Bible stories and the original setting in the Middle East, but also have it not feel really foreign to Thai people.
All the characters, we want to look Middle Eastern, and we want the landscape to reflect that. It's just the way that things are drawn that we want to bring in more of the Thai or Southeast Asian influence.
At least for the creation episodes, we're pulling a lot of plants and flowers and foliage directly from Thailand.
Some of the parables, I think, will be really fun because we can lean more into Buddhist art style because they are parables. Gives us a little more latitude to play with place. Maybe we could set them in a rice field, or we could use more of their traditional line style, the way they draw characters and figures. We're still trying to figure all of that out.
There's other scenes that are maybe more challenging to bring in Thai influence. One story is the adulterous woman. This takes place in a temple setting, and so there's not really a whole lot of Thai plants or animals that we can bring in there, but that's where the way that things are drawn and the way that pattern is used and the way that line is used can kind of fill in some of that cultural connection.
We had a gentleman come into our working space yesterday. I think he's from Central America or South America. He didn't say. But his question was, why are you making stories for Buddhists? Wouldn't it be better to bring in someone from that culture to tell these stories? It's a really good question. It's an honor to be able to tell these stories. It's an honor to be able to work with these people. I just have to believe and pray that God's going to bring in the right consultants and the right Thai people and the right Buddhist people to speak into the project, because it is theirs.
It feels very challenging to know how someone from the Thai culture and the Buddhist religion with a very different worldview to mine will relate to this artwork and the stories. We learned a lot about that while we were in Thailand.
Thailand was one of the few countries that was never colonized, and they're very proud of that. And there's a reason why they were never colonized. It's because they're very independent, they're very independent thinking, and bringing in new ideas, especially about religion, is difficult. In Thailand, Christianity is still seen as a Western religion, and that's one of the reasons I believe that it hasn't been accepted.
I think if I learned anything there, it's how little I know and understand them, and how much we need God to be in that process. I'm excited to see the final artwork come together. I think it has the potential to be really beautiful style-wise based on the patterns and the colors and the richness of the art we saw there. I'm excited for it to be a tool for people to meet Jesus in a culture where there's so little hope.